Hey everybody, David Hellman here for DallasCowboys.com, and it's time for one of my favorite annual traditions of spring. I am joined by Cowboys Executive Vice President of Player Personnel. The title is always a mouthful. Maybe we can reduce that maybe. But Will, the NFL draft is over. The hard part's over. You navigated the draft. You brought 9 new players into the program. Now your favorite part, I know. Talking about all of your decisions with the media. We're glad to have you.
Sure, I'm glad to be here. I don't know how much we'll talk about now.
So I want to start with, of course, the headline pick, number 24 overall, Tyler Smith, the offensive lineman out of the University of Tulsa. And I'm curious for your philosophy on this because I think, at least among outsiders, the line on Tyler is young player, obviously, just turned 21, a lot of developing to do. Y'all seem to have a view in mind of him. He could play guard, he could play tackle. It seems like this is a very big picture pick. And I'm just curious, when you talk about a guy like this who's got so much growing to do, how do you weigh the immediate impact that a guy can make versus the long-term outlook of what he could be in future years?
I think you have to look at it both ways. You have to have expectations of what you can get from the player initially, and we feel like that he has all of the traits to be a productive NFL player now. Put him at guard, maybe that, start him there. Maybe that gives him an opportunity to kind of work on some things, and there's not as much space as when you play tackle in the NFL. But I think the mindset, the physicality, and all of those tools are really positive. And then the more he plays, the more reps he gets. Now that's our long-term vision for him as well.
So Tyler is 6'5", 324 pounds. He's a big guy. And that seems like it was a theme in this class. Like whether it's him, you go all the way down the line to Matt Waletzko, the tackle you drafted, John Ridgeway. You seem like you drafted a lot of big guys with bad attitudes. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. Was that a conscientious decision? And if so, what did you see in the current makeup of your roster that made that a priority?
I think we won 12 games last year, and what we want to do is add to that. And when you start talking about what you can add to your football team to be better, football is a big man's game. So we wanted to have continue to add big athletic players to our roster. And I think the big thing was to add more of that physicality, more of that temperament to what we do in our team on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, winning the line of scrimmage. And part of that, you do it with athleticism, but you also do it with attitude.
One of my favorite tidbits from draft weekend was when Jalen Tolbert told us that he got a phone call from Dak Prescott. I'm just curious, and we gave you all a hard time on Friday night, and of course I'm not asking for like the list of guys that Dak called, but I am curious. Dak is such an asset to this franchise. He's the franchise quarterback. In this process, what is his role exactly? I mean, do you give Dak Prescott a list of guys you like and say, hey, we'd love you to do some work on this? Or is Dak more involved with that in the idea of like, hey, I like this receiver. Like, this is a guy that I'd love for y'all to focus on?
No, what we did was kind of gave Dak a couple guys just to look at and just so he knew what was in the draft. And I think it's important with him having the standing that he does within our organization and within our team is to kind of let him know how we do things and get his input on some things. And so I just felt in talking to him with his unique ability to communicate with everyone and to draw something from that was to use him in the, hey, give him a couple of receivers to talk to, get him on the phone and kind of get some feedback from him because as a 55-year-old man in my position trying to find players, the environment and society changes and young guys talk to young guys and they know what they're talking about a lot better than I do.
Will, you're wearing Jordans. You're clearly pretty cool.
I'm hip, but I'm still old. So.
I mean, so obviously you drafted the guy. What was Dak's feedback on Tolbert? I mean, did he get a read on him?
Yeah, he got a read on him. He was very excited about the way that he approached football, the way that he approached this process. Who's to say what's going to happen when he gets on the field with us, but you look for the preparation, the mindset going through this. It's a job interview with 32 teams, and Jalen came, he was well-focused. He knew what he was all about. He knew what he was good at. He knew what he had to work on. And I think that feedback and conversation with the quarterback gives him, a little bit of leg up because they clicked at that point in that conversation.
You mentioned that's kind of it's a Dak thing. And in your long experience doing this, is that normal to, I know guys will call a prospect once he hears his name called, but is it normal to have a quarterback involved in the process before the guy's even drafted?
I don't know what other teams do. I don't know what's normal. I just felt that it was important to get Dak involved in it, and we've talked about the importance again that he has for the organization and that the way that he connects with everybody. So I thought it was an opportunity to get him involved in the process and get more information on prospects.
4 of your first 5 picks, I believe, starting with Sam Williams in the second round, were Senior Bowl guys. You told us a wonderful story about Tony Pollard standing out to you in 2019. It doesn't matter who, but do you have a story about one of those guys, or you can even cheat, any prospect that you came away with, just a story about how that guy kind of popped up on your radar?
It's different guys at different points in time. We go into the meeting and we go into the Senior Bowl week, and the scouts that have seen them, the area guys, will give their opinions on him, and then I kind of want to go at fresh eyes and see what they were talking about, and if I see it any differently. So there's a number of different guys that just having an opportunity to see them live and in person, and then to speak with them kind of gave me more insight on who they were. I don't have any specific guy that I want to give you, but we met with a number of guys, and Damone Clark was one.
There we go.
There you go. Damone Clark was one at the Senior Bowl. When you sat down and talked to him, I know he was all business. He was all about ball. He wore that number at LSU for a reason, and you got that feeling when you met with him in person.
You know I love hearing that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to wrap this up with just a question about your job, which I think is the most interesting thing about what you do. Is from the outside perspective, at least, we kind of see you as a referee, for lack of a better word. I mean, with the scouts, the coaching staff, ownership, and you're sort of in the middle of it all coordinating. It's a lot of voices to keep in mind when draft weekend rolls around. How do you weigh that role versus your own preferences and your own opinions as somebody who evaluates talent?
I think it is a collective process. I might have my feelings on guys, and based on my position, I think that carries some weight, but I don't want to be the one to say that I'm the know-all be-all, because we all get this wrong. What we're doing is we're forecasting, we're projecting human beings going from one environment to another environment. But I think you want to take all of that information in. You want to weigh it all out, look at the number of different resources that we have, the tests and all those things, and kind of put it all together and present the facts. What you're trying to do is have a checklist. I'm looking for 10 things. If he has 9, if he has 8, if he has 7, which ones are most important? So I think the input of everybody in this process is most important, because it is collective and it is all about us.
In those of us that kind of talk about the draft and cover it avidly, you hear the phrase standing on a table, fighting for a guy that you really like. Is there an element of that in your job, or is coordinating the rest of that too much responsibility to worry about?
No, I think it's an element of my job, because I'm in the position for a reason, and I think that the work that I put in and what I will say about a guy that has some, it carries a little bit of weight. But I've been wrong, I've been right, and I've been wrong, and I think the input from the other people just causes you to check your facts and check your thoughts and check your beliefs and get it right.
Cowboys rookies hit the field next weekend. I'm very excited, as always, to see what we got in those guys. Will, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Pleasure.